Hey there, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. Join Brittany as she interviews incredible people whose stories will uplift you and remind you the life you long for is just ahead. Buckle up for an inspirational ride to your best life. Take it away, Britt.
Everybody, and welcome to the Brittany Wheeler Show. So excited to have you today and tickled that if you're watching on YouTube, you get to see this beautiful guest right next to me. If you're listening on audio, just take my word for it. But I'm really excited for today's conversation. I'm excited to, I've had the opportunity to get to know this woman in a really surface level, but the questions that I ask, if you've been listening to our show for some time, you know that I'm not asking how you cut your grass or what's your favorite color. We get really deep and personal in a way that I know is going to bless someone that's listening. And that's our goal here. I interview ordinary people living extraordinary lives. And my goal is to bless one person every episode. And I know that today's guest that's absolutely going to happen. So let me introduce her. She's a wife, a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend, an integrative health practitioner. She's an entrepreneur. She's a coach. Most importantly, she's a daughter and a sister in Christ. Please welcome Marissa McCrory to the Brittany Wheeler Show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brittany. You're amazing. Wow, I do a lot of things.
I wasn't quite looking at your head, but I saw your head like bob. And I was like, okay, so she's like taking it all in on the things that she does personally.
Yeah, and I try to pride myself on not having too many things on my to-do list, but even just some of our titles, hold a lot of weightiness that the day-to-day mundane tasks don't allow you to feel that all the time. But when you listed it out, I was like, oh wow, okay. Wow. Thank you, Lord. Well,
yeah. And I think there's something really beautiful too about when you know the things that you do and you have like a humbleness, but you also, there's a sense of, I see a lot of people that wear the titles, and the titles are what define them, and the titles are what keep them from processing and being still and, finding groundedness and center of self. That's like the opposite of what I want people to feel when I share all the things that they are, right? Like, I just want them to sit there and be like, wow, okay. Like, for even just that 15 seconds, right? Where I'm sharing all these hats or all these amazing qualities of this person, that like they get to feel, wow, like, okay, yeah, I am pretty cool. Exactly like you said, right? Where we go out there and if we're doing all the things for all the right reasons, we don't often sit there every day and say, well, I am great at this. I'm great at this. Thank you for this, and that introduction and the way that I did that, I felt was so important to highlight because more times than not, my guests are like, wow, yeah, okay, I do a lot because they don't often, process that.
that's so good, Brittany. That's amazing. I love that. Thank you. It blessed me. So I'm
Well,
already blessed.
no problem. And I'll just cut the recording out and then you can just share that with people, like a little digital business card. I said that very early on in the podcast, just in case anybody's wondering.
Let's do it.
So the next segment that we get into, I pass to you. Now, there's two parts. I have a lot of guests that I know, but there's a lot of guests that I'm interviewing that are coming onto my show that are referrals, that are men and women that I don't know personally, but I've maybe had a 30-minute, hour conversation with them. And to me, that doesn't really qualify as knowing them, right? So as I was going into this new season of recording, I was like, well, I can't ask someone that I barely know, like, how do we know each other? That's so inauthentic. So I thought through and I was like, okay, I will give my guests two options. They can either share how we met if they know me and we know each other, or why they said yes to this podcast. So I will let you decide which one you want to answer. Because even still, we know each other, but like it's pretty new. And like, I wouldn't say, we've had a ton of time together, but it's enough to like trust and have integrity and know that we're good people. And so I'm going to let you decide which one do you want to answer.
Can I mix them together?
Sure.
We'll revel too.
Love it. Are you a twist? Are you a twist ice cream girly? Do you?
No, I like vanilla.
Okay.
Well, we met at a local coffee shop through a mutual acquaintance who I also love and adore, and she's doing amazing kingdom things here in Wilmington. And when I met you, and she was like, you have to meet her because you guys are going to like each other. And that's either spot on when people say that or very, very off. And I know pretty instantaneously after 42 years. And so, yes, when I met you, I was like, yep, correct. I really me. And we had a couple conversations even after that. And you were like totally open to going into like the deep end fast, where we talked about some like kingdom principles. I actually kind of gave you a warning of like something from my own life, and like how you received it was really lovely. And like you didn't have to take my word for it. And I told you like take this to the Lord and pray about it, but just like your heart of you were very receptive to it, and how you handled it was like with confidence, but also like wanting to glean from it. And that doesn't happen a lot. So I knew I liked that about you. And I loved that you even asked me. So I made time to make sure I got on your show because I like what you're creating and I like who you are.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And I totally forgot about that conversation until you just reminded me. Like so much life has happened in the last, year. And I just think it's so important too, like, what you were sharing of when people come to you and they share a concern, they share, hey, like, just a heads up, it's so important that we receive it, right? And then to your point, like, however, taking that to the Lord, processing it, all those things. I think more often than not, we don't receive those things. And that's what ends up turning people off from wanting to help others or feeling that they are a safe person to share advice or share thoughts, And so I think we can all do a much better job of like what you shared that I did, which was, okay, yeah, being open and curious, right? One thing I'm really discovering about myself as a disciple of Christ is I'm constantly curious. And when you sit in a posture of curiosity, you actually lean more towards kindness, grace, and love, and your heart tends to not get hardened so quickly. And
Yeah.
so that's just what I think we all could be doing is just being curious. Like, okay, so why would Marissa want to give me that advice? Why would that, like, instead of being like, no, I don't want to hear it, be like, okay, what more can I get from that? And I think that is just innately who I am. But in that particular moment, I was like, okay, well, she's sharing it because she cares. And there's nothing, improper or, incorrect about receiving it. And so thank you for
Mhm.
that. And
Oh, you're
very
welcome.
grateful.
I think as like you said, kingdom sisters, like we should do that in love. Like there's truth in said in love. And you get to a certain point in your life where like, man, if I can help a younger sister out in her life from not making some of the same mistakes,
Mm.
then I'm going to do the uncomfortable thing and just like tap on the shoulder of that woman and say, hey, maybe think about this, because it says that we overcome the enemy with the blood of the lamb and the word of our testimony. And I think we could help a lot of sisters out if we were willing to speak up. I also feel like that's not rewarded a lot with how people respond.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you have to choose. You have to make a choice of why you're doing it, right?
Mhm.
And you have to decide, are you doing it to receive feedback and affirmation, right, from that person? Or are you doing it because you've been called to do it? You feel like peace about the decision and you know it's the right thing to do regardless of the outcome. And I think often we just don't necessarily feel as whole and feel as much peace about our decisions. And so we do them because we want the affirmation. And there is also, I think, to your point, like a degree of separation. My friends have been talking about this a lot. You're someone that is growing and doing some incredible things. And, you put yourself out there on social media as it relates to your business and the work and all the things you and your husband and community are creating. And I think that only is possible when you are a degree separated from a previous self.
Mhm.
You can't put yourself out there. You can't help the woman or the man you once were if you haven't healed and there's separation between the
Mhm.
two. And
For
it's just
sure.
become really clear with the show and with the men and women that I meet that I feel very aligned in the season of life we're at, where it's like, oh, okay, we can look and see ourselves. We are not existing in that space. And that is just a very different place to come from. And so when you give that advice, right, when you share those thoughts, when you share your heart, when you genuinely care, the outcome is cut because you're not that person. So you genuinely are like, well, however they take it or leave it, it's fine. Um, but most people are not there and they try to give the advice while they're still in that space. And so it's very personal. It's very connected. It very much hurts if that person doesn't receive it very well. I'm not a
Yeah.
psychologist, but that felt
No,
really right.
you're right. I do have a psychology degree too and have been studying people, been in ministry for 10 plus years, and you're 100% correct. And you're constantly evolving. And as much as you'll allow Jesus to heal those wounds in your heart that are inflicted by other people, whether it's in your childhood or, XYZ, any time period in your life, if you carry around those wounds, you live from that perspective of, because all the issues flow out of your heart, right? That's scriptural. So if you have a broken heart, you're going to walk around either feeling like a victim most of the time or walking around inflicting wounds on other people unknowingly. So that's just like a side note. But yes, I agree. Like you the level that you live from, a level of wholeness, is the level that you are able to speak from and to. So, yeah, you would live if you have a fear of rejection, then you're probably not going to share truth and love because you're afraid that they're going to take it in a way that you didn't mean it. And so you probably just avoid hard conversations altogether.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys can follow us later for one-on-one psychology and spiritually led conversations.
Oh man,
We
don't get me.
will.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole other business. Um, so share with the audience that doesn't know you, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people that are not going to. We're a global podcast, and that's just something that's really special. Share with the listeners who don't know you who you are and what is an integrative health practitioner, if I'm
Mhm.
being honest.
Yeah. So, gosh, obviously you already said my name. So I've been married for 20 years. And so that's a big part of my life. And that flows into everything I do. I have 2 kids. I've been in ministry for a long time. I love people. And in this last like 5 years or so, I noticed a piece of my life that I was kind of ignoring and just kind of living by the grace of God. Like, hey, can I need to take care of myself better because I am going to miss out on this legacy thing that I'm talking about with my husband. And if I don't fix this, my body is literally going to break down because you can have the clearest, most healthiest mind and heart, have your vision just like clear and the path ready. But if your body is deteriorating and unhealthy, you can only go at the level that your body will allow. This is a very real thing. And that's when the Lord started to talk to me about like taking care of my body. I think that there's a lot of interesting theology out there that tells you that focusing on self care is like selfish. And obviously, there's a lot of religious mindsets about women's bodies in general. And just a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about it, which I noticed I had to unpack in the last 5 years and really get back to what scripture says about me and my body as a woman. And I just think that there are a lot of women who think their body is just like it's going to last forever and the grace of the Lord is just going to keep them healthy. Um, I've had a lot of just insight and revelation around the fact that we have to steward it. It's just like anything else that we could be given, like a talent. Um, our bodies are literal miracles, if you think about it. And the more I study it, I'm like, this is a miracle. Like my faith is stronger because I study science. As an integrative health practitioner, I chose to go that route because it was the route that helped me find answers holistically. I have been on like a 12-year journey since I had my first child of breaking away from Western medicine and putting my full trust there for health issues and researching, studying like healthy remedies for that you can heal at home and um, trying chiropractic and all of these like holistic ways of doing life. But then in 2020, it was not related to COVID. It was just I had adrenal fatigue. I was stressed and burned out because I wasn't taking care of myself. I couldn't find answers. I wasn't sick enough for a doctor to help me, but I just felt horrible enough to not be able to get off the couch. Um, as I navigated like the holistic health space as a discipler, not as a disciple of Jesus and a kingdom woman, I knew enough spiritually that there was also a lot of new age stuff happening in that space that I just wasn't interested in dabbling in. I just wanted help from a scientific perspective, like how I could naturally heal. And this was the lane that eventually helped me. And so I wanted to bring these solutions to women with actual data because we're actually doing testing just in a different way around some of these like ongoing health issues that are plaguing a lot of women around their gut health or hormones just because of the world we live in this era. So, sorry, that was a long answer, but
No, it's great.
yeah.
No, that was great. And, I think that a lot of women are going to be listening to this and just be like, wow, okay, yes, like I felt that. I have experienced that. And I just constantly, again, I come back to that curiosity piece, coming back to just being willing to ask questions and, seek out answers as it relates to your body and to how you're feeling. And I love seeing, this movement of, women from all different areas, walks of life, educational backgrounds, just sharing their stories and encouraging advocating. And that's really where it starts, right? And that's what started for you. And I think that's all that women need to hear to take on the steps of their own journey, right? Where my journey was very different, right? My journey was really just about finding health as it related to weight. And in 2014, I had gastric bypass. And that was the step that I took that really was the catalyst for so many other things. And being able to say yes to my health and wellness business because I didn't believe that people looked like me did health and wellness. And then the rest was finding God and then learning a different lifestyle. And so if anybody listening to this is hearing, how Marissa really took those next steps, it's just because she was advocating, right? And those
Yep.
that alignment started to make sense. The more and more you ask questions, the more and more you seek the right answers from those sources,
Yeah.
which is important, obviously.
Yeah.
And to come fast forward, like for me personally, like I'm in a season of my life where I'm now studying my body and like listening and eating based on my hormone health. And I'm like loving it. And I'm like, but I say to people, because I think that here's my other caveat, because I always have those things where I'm like, I am excited to empower people, but I also want to make it clear that it took a long time to get here. And I think more often than not, especially in the space that you're in, as far as not necessarily holistic medicine, but medicine, lifestyle, wellness, we do not share enough of what the work we took to get there, except we just talk about the end result.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be that person. And so I am always reminding people, it took me 11 years to get to this point where I am talking about my hormone health, but it was
Yeah.
worth it, right? You've been on a 12-year journey yourself, right? And so you were not asking these same questions or treating your body this way year 1 and 2.
100%. Yeah.
So
Very
much.
little steps, very little baby steps of even because that space has trained us to be so just like compliant and not ask questions in general. And like I said at the beginning, I'm kind of a rebel. Like I question things and I'm like, this doesn't add up, So it takes enough courage just to start asking questions. And I think that's something we should all be doing and not just blindly trusting anybody or anything. It's like having that autonomy is and exercising it is really important.
Yeah. I think we see a lot of people do that probably incorrectly, right? Like asking the questions and being a rebel at the cost of humility,
Oh,
integrity, kindness, love.
right.
Okay, maybe not. Like,
Yeah.
but you
No,
can
I
still
agree with
ask the questions, right?
there's a way to do it with honor and respect that
Right.
doesn't respect other people, but does still communicate your autonomy and your questions.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me. We were in San Diego at that time, so that's where my kids were born, and interviewing pediatricians because we had chosen not to vaccinate our kids. That's a personal decision that everybody needs to consider for themselves. But even in a place like California 12 years ago, which is usually on the forefront of like health and wellness, juice places on every corner, acai bowls on every corner, vegan, clean eating places. But to still find a pediatrician that would work with us to not vaccinate our kids was almost impossible. And you sit across somebody who's been I'm just going to use a word because I feel like it, indoctrinated, and they paid to go to school and taught a certain way, and to then get offended when you question them is not advocating for you. They have
Yeah.
an agenda. And so I'm like, ugh. Also, they just are so invested in this thing that cognitive dissonance is very hard to actually have a kind conversation then if you're so ingrained in a way of thinking. But then I also think about like Jesus and how he handled those situations, and he was never, um, there's like a way to like confront that is also kind and loving. You don't need to be so reactive. So it's just interesting thinking about it. But yeah, back then it was very hard and we felt stupid sometimes because you're like, I was 30 when I had him, but I still didn't have like the complete confidence to be like, is this the right choice? But then something in me just said, this is the right choice. But I'm not getting a lot of like claps for it.
Yeah.
So
And
it's hard.
you just have to trust your intuition, I think, at that point. And, I think that's for everybody and whatever that they choose. And I think this season and time of life that we're in is just not necessarily about one size fits all. It's about what size fits you. And we can all live in those spaces. Someone that is choosing to not vaccinate their babies and someone that is can still be in the same space and should still be in the same space. But I think it's a matter of how are we showing up for each other in respecting that I may not have made that choice, but that's your choice and that's okay. I think too often than not, we take it, like I said, we take it personal, right? We take it as a way like we should be in those spaces. And to go back to what we know in scripture is like Jesus was in those spaces where he did not agree with the people that he was with, but he didn't do anything less than love and kindness and compassion, regardless of their decisions. And more and more I get affirmed in how I show up to people and how, going back to our early part of our conversation, I just, it is so clear to me that how I am and who I am and how I show up to love regardless. And that sometimes comes at a cost. A lot of people want me to have personal feelings about a lot of different things.
Mm,
And I don't have a lot of personal feelings about a lot of different things because if I had a lot of personal feelings about a lot of different things, I'd probably lean more towards a hardened heart. And what we're talking about that you experience with your pediatrician would happen, right?
totally.
Doesn't mean I'm not educated or empathetic or understand. But I find myself, drawing that line for me, being like, I cannot care and love and be invested in every single thing. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's okay that I don't have a strong opinion either way, because it gets me in the door with spaces and people that need love, that need to see my light, that need to be surrounded by someone that's going to say, hey, I see you, I believe in you. And that
Yeah.
is more important than the myriad of things that we would argue about based on beliefs, right? And that's my own personal walk as a disciple, and I've been coming, very clear. It's just very it is like a Las Vegas neon light sign that it's been very, very clear. Uh
Las Vegas neon sign. I love
yeah, about my walk. But you mentioned being rebel, and I want to know, like, you just didn't become a rebel overnight. Let's go back for a second. I
it.
want to know, how did your childhood and those around you as a young girl shape these dreams and the life you live now? Because you said rebel, and I'm like, who was Marissa a few years ago?
Um, I mean, that's been an evolution, I never felt like I fit. Does that make sense? Like on the original Rudolph Christmas movie, like the old
Mhm.
one, like the 50s, and we're in the island of misfits, like the
Yeah,
dentist.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know why. And I think I think part of it is like an anointing to be set apart that I think we all have. But mine started early, and part of it was like moving around a lot as a kid because of my dad's job, and then my parents getting divorced at like 11. And I grew up in a pretty like Christian reformed part of Michigan, and it's very conservative. And honestly, back then, I'm 42, so this would have been 32 years ago in the 90s. Like, divorce was not as that common there. And so, if you had a single mom, you're probably one of like maybe 10 other kids in the school because people just thought like divorce was just so bad. And you were judged and kind of like, I don't know, I just felt like a little bit of an outsider simply because I didn't have two parents in the house. Then a year after they got divorced, my dad died in a car accident. And so there's been a lot of just like what I would say, what the enemy planned to hurt me, the Lord has used to set me apart and help me trust in Him. After that, got saved at a young life camp that my like second cousin invited me to. And like when I think of the story, I'm like, the hand of the Lord was just on that the whole time. And so, yeah, I think that that set apartness from a young age and not really knowing because I didn't grow up in a Christian home, not knowing like what that was, I have felt that. And, at times it has been to my detriment where I tried to fit in and then I like, dim myself for a long time trying to fit in. But then meeting my husband in a bar in 2005, after walking away from the Lord, living the Sex and the City lifestyle as the best I could, and ending up just at the end of myself. Met him a few months after that, and like I don't know, there's something about him, and he like reignited um, that autonomy part of me because he is also just like he doesn't give a flip what people think of him and has this like natural internal confidence. And yeah, a lot of that has just been reaffirmed in our marriage along the way, in both feeling called to entrepreneurship and not living a typical lifestyle. Yeah. So a lot of that has been affirmed over the last 20 years to really like have the courage to do the unusual thing and not being afraid to fail.
Mm. I just want to say I'm so sorry about your dad.
Oh, thank you.
That's a lot, and a lot for a lot of reasons. Like I definitely can't, someone that has been through many divorces as a child, and then my dad and mom got divorced when I was 7. I definitely he's no longer in my life, and he made that choice at 26. But I I can't imagine being in that place 2 years, right? So I'd have been 9 and just experiencing that. So that alone, and I don't know if did you ever feel like the community or the world was ready for you to be a statistic based on divorce and based on single motherhood and based on, what comes with that, which can be like, your mom's working all the time and you're within the
Mhm.
community and maybe around people. I don't know. Did you ever feel that?
So, like, what a typical I'm trying to understand your question because I wanna make sure I answer it well. Could you elaborate on it a little bit more?
Yeah. So for me growing up, I I was born in 1990, and so by the time my mom was at her second marriage, I was about 11. And as a product of divorce, I didn't have a lot of friends that had divorced parents. So I was pretty
Mhm.
like abnormal. I never felt that from them,
Yeah.
but I did see others in those spaces and what life was like for them, and then how life changed for them and what they got into and
Mhm.
the fact that their parents not being divorced was the unravel to a lot of things that
Yeah.
affected their friendships, their community, their decisions of like what they're putting in their body. And I
Mhm.
always felt like for me, and I can't speak for my sisters, but I'm gonna speak for them for a second. I feel like a little bit of them probably felt this too, that like all the situations that we were around, everybody else that quote unquote looked like us that had similar situations were vastly different
Mhm.
than we were in character, in the type of friends that we chose, in the
Yeah.
decisions. Like my sisters and I, we didn't drink in high school. We didn't do drugs in high school. Like I didn't drink until I was a senior in high school. So it was
Yeah.
just like, I mean, maybe my baby sister drank a little bit, but like it wasn't like what we were seeing from
Yeah.
parents and kids that had processed divorce.
Yeah. So I will just say I felt the same as you and your sisters. Like I don't know if it was that experience in I don't at the Young Life camp when I got saved a year after he died, but like there is something and this is just like uh this is hard. So if this triggers anybody, I'm just going to warn you. Like at 11, 12 years old, because we were he was raised in the Catholic faith, and so they do like open caskets. And so there's something about being 11, 12 years old and looking at your dead father's body in a casket that just like I don't think anybody should ever do that. So I don't even let my kids go to funerals that are like that. I think it's morbid and weird. But there's something that like clicked in me in that moment. And I was like, life is precious and you are not promised another day. So I will say like that's where my mind went. And then because of just some of the unhealthy dynamics in my mom's life, my thing went into I'm the oldest. I need to take care of everybody, and I had to I had to unpack those emotions that were repressed later in life.
Yeah.
Let's just say even recently, because the Lord is so kind to continue to help you unravel and help your heart be whole. Um, so I will say there was like this internal force that's like, I now have to be strong for everybody else and get us through this because I have a younger brother as well. And unfortunately, his reaction to obvious and now having a son, I can see how instrumental a father figure is in a young
Yeah.
boy's life. I mean, both girls need that too, but instrumental to a young boy's life. He did start doing drugs. He did pull away from the family. He did like just found affirmation from the first young man who would pay attention to him, you know? So very different path. And so yeah, that's an interesting like way to unpack my life story is that yeah, I could have gone very differently.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to like when I was writing my book, it was really honestly, it's so much therapy. So even if someone's like, I don't want to write a book, but I need immense amount of therapy, write your life story
Yeah.
or write whatever. Cause I'm telling you
Journal.
what, you're gonna end up going through being like, holy crap, you're crying in coffee shops like I was and
Yeah.
just
Good.
going through so many things. And yeah, just got the time to see, uh, where I necessarily wouldn't have identified God in the moment, going back and seeing how God played such a very radical part, using other people and the community and friends and family and things around to keep us safe and to keep us guarded. And that's like what kind of gets me giddy and all of a sudden it's like that just didn't come from nowhere. I believe that's a mixture of God's plan and prayers from the people that love and know us
Yeah,
generationally. So
totally.
I think back to like my grandparents were,
Mm.
practicing Catholic and very much like believed in
Mhm.
God. And my
Yeah.
grandfather he went through 4 years of seminary and didn't end up becoming a priest, thank God, because I wouldn't be
Wow.
here. And I just remember his prayer life, and I had no idea at the time what he was praying, but I can imagine that what he was praying were the prayers that
Yep.
guided the hands to
Yes.
guard us, because like, if I'm being very honest on my own show, I should not be as whole as I am. I should probably have had a baby already. I should probably have had a drug addiction. I
Yeah.
should probably like, there's so many things that I'm like, I should probably not have all the friends that I have because the grace and love that they gave
Yeah.
me. Like,
Wow.
you're hearing it from me on myself. Like, it is because of God, leveraging and using people that loved me or maybe didn't even know me,
Mhm.
going back. And I don't know who needs to hear that. And they're driving in their car or they're on the treadmill. Good for you. And really just take a minute and think about what and who moved in your life in
Oh,
seasons where you were supposed to be a statistic. You were
sure.
supposed to be like the others you saw.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be your whole life. It could be a moment, and just reflect on that. And I
Mm.
just see the beauty in the people around you, the community. Like,
Yeah.
you and I were sharing it. It could have looked very different.
So
Um,
true.
very different.
So true. It's very good. Yeah. And to remind us to be those faithful prayer warriors for other people's lives and that there can be a lot of distraction to like not do it, but it works.
Yeah.
Like just period. It
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, and even I found myself recently, like, just praying for, like, people in my life specifically based on how I know that I was protected in similar seasons.
Mm. Wow.
Like, okay, I've seen it happen for me. So what if I pray intentionally that men and women are coming in this person's life or these people's lives to act on behalf?
Yeah.
But maybe where I can't be, right? Like just thinking beyond myself and beyond my own capabilities. You said earlier, you're talking about like, um, gosh, guys, there's so many things that we're learning about each other for the first time. So you're welcome. And just hearing your story of like stepping up and becoming that very much like big sister, got to do it all. Cause that was me as well. I learned how to cook at 13. I was now, my mom was working most of the time. At the time, my stepdad was an
Mhm.
alcoholic. And so if I wasn't cooking, there was no food, right? And it's so beautiful to look back. And there's so many other things, but it's so beautiful to look back and be like, my friend just shared with me, he was like, you know, you are really, really, you're an incredible cook and you're so good at it. And he's like, it's probably because you've been doing it like 15 years longer than the average person your age. And I was just like, wow, that has more of a wholesome and like beautiful way to think about, right?
Mhm.
Having to be forced to grow up as a child, versus maybe how you and I have had to process that. I
Mhm.
love thinking, yes, I am a better chef because I had to cook and it's beautiful instead of being like, gosh, this was, and going into the negative
Yeah,
diatribe that comes out.
totally. Yeah, framing is a huge part of how you can heal and move on from something and extract the lesson versus letting it make you bitter.
Mm. I also want to mention that it's really beautiful to go back to what you're saying that you met your husband in a bar. I like love that for you so much. And I love that God's like, I see you. I see where you are, young 25-year-old. And
That's
I'm
right.
going to meet you there uh, because you probably would not have met your husband in church or at a church event or like
No,
just
he
based on
wasn't
what you
going.
shared.
No, I wasn't going to church then. He wasn't going to church then, but I just knew. And, I know it's like different now and, but yeah, that's something that people kind of always chuckle at. I'm like, yeah, that's where he was and
Yeah.
that's where I was.
Well, and I think that's unique because and I want to share what I feel, but then how your story is different and it's profound in that way.
Yeah.
So I believe so my story is from hoe to hope. Okay. And I was a hoe. I was. And now I'm not. And I had a God-sized hole in my heart. And I was finding love in all the wrong beds. What I know to be true about God is he's not going to pull me out of that to have me meet my future husband in that way. I know that is not true and that's not how
Yeah,
God is, right?
100%.
So what's unique about your story and what I think some people could twist is like, oh, why would God have you meet your husband in a bar? And it's like, but God didn't pull you out of that season yet. That's the plot twist. He had you
Mhm.
in that season. Your husband was in that season and together he pulled you out of that season.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's very different than you coming out and then going back in to meet him. I don't believe God works that way, but you were both in that season and he saw
Mhm.
that opportunity to pull you out together stronger. And that's profound, profound.
Totally. I am not advocating, like, start going to the bar because that's where you meet your husband. If you're already, like, a Christian woman, like, live your life, but yeah, I'm not advocating for that, just to be really clear.
Right. Well, and I didn't think you were, but I think it's a beautiful opportunity for those because most of the people that listen to this podcast may not know God, right? They may not have a relationship with him. But
Yeah.
just to know and see that even amongst your most dark moments and challenging moments, he found you and your husband was in his own similar space and he pulled you both out of that. I think that's powerful. And so there's a lot of people, a lot of young single women out there being like, where am I going to meet him? Where am I gonna, right wherever you're at? Right,
Yeah,
whatever you're doing. You don't need to be doing something different or radically change yourself to
right.
meet that person.
No, 100%, because that's not even, like, authentic. Then whoever that version that you're making yourself to be isn't even really you.
Mm,
So that's not right. So that's why your identity always needs to be from the place of whose you are. And that confidence is found in him. Elroy, he sees you. Like, so if you can flow from that place, not from how pretty you are, not from your competency in what you do. Literally, because God gave you breath in your lungs, you have innate value and worth. And yeah, you can try to find your confidence in like a lot of the wrong places, whether it's in somebody's bed or in achieving big goals. Like all of that can be taken away in an instant and leaves you tattered, you know? And so as women, if I want to instill confidence, and I had to learn it myself because I didn't have the affirmation of a dad saying that to me. That's where
Yeah.
girls get their identity from, is like what their father says about them. So, especially if you have been raised in a fatherless home, like you are going to have to abide with the Lord even more to get that sense of identity so that you're not trying to change yourself to meet a man or to get a husband. Like, and follow him. Like, I think a lot of us also stay in the same community forever out of comfort. And God is saying, like, hey, move to this city, pursue this thing. Your husband's actually across the country, like, but if you stay and you don't move, like, you're not going to meet him. So that's another thing is like abiding with him always leads to fruit, even then his sovereignty is so good, even when you're not following him and somebody's been praying for you. It's like you can't help but not follow him, even when you think it's like a stupid idea. Or
Mm.
he backtracks on your stupid ideas and makes them good.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Your
It's
stupid
really hard.
ideas.
The Lord, he is the more I know about him, the less I realize I know about him.
He's an ego. He's an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony award-winning performer. He does incredible work. You can't even, I mean, he just, whether it's funny, it's sad, it's dramatic, it's beautiful. It's just all over the place, and I think however we can relate to that is beautiful. But again, like ever changing, always like you're ever changing he's meeting you where you're at, which is the point of your story. And I don't think that you've been someone that, from what you've been sharing with the audience so far, you've been, adverse, maybe that's not the right word, or I don't even know what the right word I'm looking for, but, you know, living challenging moments and seasons you've shared in just the short time we've had together that like they've existed. And in our podcast, we talk about choosing your heart. And I love that you even just kind of encourage the audience, not kind of, you did encourage the audience to do hard things, right? To seek out and to find the people and the places you want to be despite the comfort. And so on this podcast, we talk about choosing your heart. And those are hard moments that they're crossroad. Like both decisions are hard, they're not easy, but ultimately the one that you choose is going to lead you down the path to your better self. So I would love to know, like, what is a choosing your hard moment that comes to mind? And what was the path you took?
Mhm. Um, so I think like one of the biggest, most recent ones was in 2019. My husband and I had built a business semi together. It's really mostly based off of his skill set, but like as a married couple, you're one, and there's a lot of prayer, a lot of emotional support. I was really focused on being CEO of our house and being the one. I chose to stay home with our kids, but we owned this business, had built it up for 3 years. It was doing pretty well. Another company wanted to acquire it. And so we started doing a lot of business just with them. This was a mistake that we learned from because a few months into that relationship, before the transaction had actually closed, they started struggling financially and not paying their bills. So when you have a lot of your projects going through somebody else's systems and you don't have a lot of like insight into what's actually happening in terms of cash flow, like bad bad decision on our part. Also, they made some bad decisions on their part. And so we got to a point, my husband and I actually drove Uber for a couple months just to like pay our employees, do it. And at some point, we just looked at each other and we're like, are we doubling down and rebuilding this because right now it's failing, or are we giving it up? And in that moment, it was like such a Holy Spirit filled moment. At this point, we had been very intentionally walking with the Lord for 10 plus years. And we just knew like we have to close it down. Like we have to let this ship die. But knowing what I know about the Lord and his faithfulness, I had this thing in my stomach and I said, we can't just bankrupt the business though. Like, we need to honor the debt personally. And my husband was in total agreement. But I will tell you, that moment when you're faced with doing something out of faith that seems completely impossible, I had no idea what that meant. I didn't even know what the number was. It was $500,000, which if you heard what I said, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment in San Diego with 2 kids driving Uber. We didn't have $50. So what's crazy about those moments of faith that look wildly just like insane, we chose that. Like, the Lord probably with his grace would have said, well, the law says you can bankrupt a business and just say, sorry, everybody, we messed up. You paid us money to do a job, but now we can't fulfill it. That just felt so wrong. And it felt like a setup from the Lord. Like, the Lord wanted to see what was in our hearts in that moment. And in that moment, I was like, I don't care. Like, you can take it all. I don't care about being successful or having a business that would, hopefully bring in millions, like, because that's what we were expecting. But like, in that moment, your heart, those hard decisions can really reflect what's already in your heart. And hopefully it's something good, because that moment propelled us. Then a year later, COVID happens and the Lord says, leave California. And now the last 5 years have been nothing but a multiplication season of like our finances, our family, our relationships. Like, there's so much fruit in our life that is undeniable because of that hard decision.
Oh.
I know that's kind of a lot, but and
No, it's
I'm
so
able to
good.
share that testimony because I think some people just like they hear it and they maybe don't understand. I just want to encourage people to do the hard things, and even if they're faced in moments that feel like huge failure, to just do what's right. And like, whether you believe in Jesus or not, like, there is something about character and integrity that is just lacking in these times that we live in, and it makes you stand out. Like, I actually feel that about you, Brittany. Like, you are integrous, you're full of character, not perfect, but you follow through with what you say you're going to do. And if you mess up, I feel like you'd admit that you messed up. And let's just have the humility to do those things and give good service to our customers. If you own a business, like, just do the right thing and you'll actually stand out a lot. That's some of the best marketing you could ever do for yourself, your brand, or your business.
Hmm. Okay, cool. Podcast ends here. Bye, everybody. Thank you for those kind words, because yes, that is really what matters to me. Like, what long after people don't care what you say, they care about how you make them feel, right? And so
Mhm.
whether it is honoring a debt, whether it's honoring a commitment, whether it's, honoring people, it really doesn't matter. I think that story in so many ways has so many facets that somebody can pull from, whether it's big faith in front of extreme odds, whether it's doing things that feel good in your soul and you have peace about but don't make sense in the world, whether that's like coming in alignment with your spouse and making decisions together for
Yes.
your family and community, whether that's humbling yourself to a path or a job or a way to make money that maybe is not what you wanted to do, but you'll do it.
Mhm.
Being willing to move yourself away from this location in search of prosperity and wholeness. I mean, there's so many things. You could write 17 books just from that one story,
I
right?
think I need to. I think I need to.
I'll
Well,
add,
and
I'll add that to your list, author.
yeah. So what's funny about that is, like, even the next month after we made that decision, we had no idea where the money was going to come from. Like, doors opened to consulting work for my husband to make more money in a month than he had ever made. Now, all that money went straight towards debt, but also along the way, people sued us. So, you know what? Like, even when you make the right decision, you still have to live with the consequences of your decisions. It doesn't mean like God magically like waves the magic wand, you
Yeah.
know? there's a
Yeah.
season of walking through bad decisions. But you know what I said? I said, babe, you're just going to have honest conversations. And some people are going to be graceful and some people are going to be pissed. But you know that you're doing the right thing based off of your character. That's all that matters. And some people we couldn't pay back for like 3 years. But you know what? We kept writing those checks. Every time money came in, it was like, hello, goodbye. Like,
Yeah.
and now he has his character that he can stand on no matter if businesses come or go. People know him by his character.
Mhm.
And that's more important than the cash flow.
1000%. And I will also add to that, like, if you are someone listening and you're desiring big things, right? You have big dreams on your heart, which I know that, you and your husband do, I do, right? There's a big amount of faith that's required in
Mhm.
that process, right? And so it just also seems very clear that that moment in time, like you shared, was not only just a test of your character, but a test of faith and a test of, okay, if you can do this now, what are you going to do when it gets that much harder? What are you going to do when the stakes get greater? And I constantly think about that in my life. Like, if I'm willing to have the faith that I need for this season and beyond in ways it doesn't make sense, it's equipping me it's equipping the muscle, you guys. It's not equipping the fact that it's going to be easy to have faith in every season. No, it's just going to feel familiar. And I'm going to
Mhm.
know what I need to do and go to and become and what I need to put in practice to
Yeah.
have that faith again when it isn't going great. And that just seems to be very clear that what was God was doing in your life
Yeah.
in that season. And guess what? 5 years later, you're having conversations and doing things that require a lot of faith, right? And things
But
that don't make sense, that honestly, like, all the theme is true, right? You're seeing the similarities, and
yeah.
and again, it's just that amount of faith that you're willing to have, and are you willing to steward it? And it becomes a story, and you can help the person you once were even from those moments, which is beautiful. And who your husband runs into and experience, like, hey, like, man, this is where we're at and we did it. And if we can do it, you can do it, right? And
Yeah.
maybe whatever
Had
that
mul
is.
Yeah, we have had multiple of those hard conversations and just it was an ability to let them be sober minded in that moment, but also hopeful. Like, you know what? You messed up. The better thing is to admit you messed up and learn from it. Apologize, do what you can to make the other person whole if you can. Um, Especially as like entrepreneurs or business people.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you learn from it and how you move forward from it is more important
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. And even, like, I just literally experienced something like this last night, where there was we did a pre-order sale for the t-shirts for the show. And, I'm finalizing the order, and I went and looked back at a couple of the sizes, and the invoice wasn't right. And we checked it out. And the sizes there was one set of sizes, 3 different people that they actually don't make it in that size. So I thought that it was available and it wasn't. And
Mhm.
I didn't do my homework to double, triple check with my team that was possible. And so, of course, they were apologetic and so gracious. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm going to do the right thing. And the right thing was to give 3 choices, right? It was to, you know, get your money back, right? I'll give, like, obviously, like, that's not the thing that I would love to do, but it's the
Yeah, of
right thing to do, right?
course.
So give money back and give, so they can redirect it wherever, change the size. And then there was a third, like, there would happen to be an alternate size that might work best, but it would not be the same thing. And I gave all 3 of them the choice. And so far, 2 of
Mm.
them have come back and said, just change the size. We still want to support you. And I think it's just a small testament to when you're willing to do the right thing, regardless of how it personally impacts you, more than likely people will give grace and show up. But you have to be ready also that people say, you know what, like, this isn't going to work. And
Yeah.
you and your husband experience that, um,
Mhm.
in just being honest. And yeah, that the business, the way that happened also, I feel like any successful entrepreneur, if it's gone perfectly for them, they must be in a Disney movie
Totally.
because
100%. I don't think you can go on to do things that are big without epically failing first, because that's literally how you learn.
yeah,
And you have to build some toughness to handle, like, being misunderstood, there's a lot that goes to leadership. And part of it is like you have to just get over what people think of you, unfortunately, because you are going to be misunderstood. And part of it is like knowing what the vision is and not consulting other people who weren't there when God talked to you about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to trust that He said it to you and they weren't in on the conversation and they don't know. So
Yeah.
if somebody discourages you, I guess haters, I don't necessarily think that there's like a ton of haters. There's a lot of like misunderstanders or people who are jealous or people who are stuck in their own decisions of not overcoming after failure. There's a lot that goes into that. But yeah, knowing that you're doing what the Lord asked you to do is gives you a lot more confidence. But you do have to just let go of caring what they think.
Yeah. And surround yourself with the right people. And something I learned I don't know if it was pretty recently, probably within the past 5 to 7 years, maybe a little bit less, is like, know who in your life is the right person to tell the right thing. And so,
Mhm.
like, I shared this in a podcast the other day. Like, I love my mom, but if I'm gonna go and tell my mom about all the things I'm doing in the podcast, she's not gonna get it. Like, she loves me, but like, she's not gonna give me back that same energy, right? She bought a shirt, she's so involved, but like, she's not gonna give that back. So when I go to talk about the podcast with people and I go to the people that either have a podcast or are
Yep.
entrepreneurs they understand because there's a lot of
Yeah.
similarities in how we do things. And so often, we
Very
just want our family and friends to be all the things all the time. And it's okay that they're not. It's
Yeah,
okay,
100%. Very good. I'm glad you said that.
like
Agree.
just, and especially like being okay to know that the people that love you and that you love, that won't change. But you may need to bring in new people that are where
Yep.
you're going as you elevate, as you grow, as you overcome new things and reach new hard decisions that
Mhm.
it's unfair to ask the people that we love if they're not there to then empathize and understand with us. We can share, right? But if they're the only thing that we're looking for feedback or we're looking for affirmation or looking to be seen and heard, we're
Yeah.
going to get hurt, right? We just are, And I think that for you guys, getting to the level of being an entrepreneur that you were at and then continue to stay in that space and now growing a little bit, like the people that were there for the season. And if they didn't level up, then you go find more people as you
Yeah.
rise and continue to find new
100
experiences.
100%. Like what you didn't see in the last 5 years is investing in multiple like kingdom entrepreneur masterminds that were not inexpensive. Doing that for myself this past year, like seeking out, yes, people who are farther along or on the same trajectory as what you feel called to, but also will tell you some truth and love. They don't just amen everything that you're like, that's amazing idea. Yes, encouragement, encouragement. You get an award and you get an award and you get a medal and you get a medal. Like I feel like we have done that too much to like kids.
Yeah.
So guess what? You're not going to have a clapping section for most of what you do as an entrepreneur or somebody who's called to create something big. There's going to be a lot of loneliness. There's going to be a lot of pruning of people that you love and are even friends with in this season. Like, I'm just here to tell you that a lot of the people will not be going with you based off of their own choice. But you need to find people who are on that trajectory and will encourage you, inspire you because they understand. But you're going to have to fight to find them.
Yeah. I'm experiencing that myself. I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that. And it doesn't even matter. It could be that you're pursuing becoming a doctor and none of your family even passed high school. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't have to be that you go create a business. It is whatever is relatable in your life. Just know that the community that you surround yourself with, you will need to find people that will be able to relate to that in ways that your family and friends cannot. And that's okay. That's okay. I think it creates really healthy expectations and we spend less time fighting with our family and our friends because we put something on them that they can't actually fulfill. And so when you get
Yeah.
to spend time with them, it's in love and it's in joy and it's in moments of just getting to experience life versus getting excited to tell them a thing that they're not gonna be able to understand and explain and be disappointed. And the whole evening or day or wherever you are is tainted by that undertone of disappointment.
Right. Because they weren't totally affirming of you. And that's okay. Yeah. There's also this great book called Boundaries that helps you realize that like it's okay for them to not understand and to m- let the relationship be what it is. And just like you said, do the life things together if they're choosing to be healthy individuals too. And not getting deep into the weeds of like, this is what I did today. Like, I can't even tell you what I did today. You would be so worried about me that,
Yeah.
like, I'm not trying to have to deal with your emotions too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's so much wisdom in that.
Yeah. I have one last question, and then we'll wrap up with some lifestyle questions. I think you've shared so much of your own season life, where God has taken you, and we've kind of had this undertone of being someone that can help the person that you once were. So I'd love to know, like, if you were to meet that 25-year-old version of yourself that was about to enter the bar and, meet what would be the man of her dreams,
Mhm.
what advice would you give to her and even potentially to him? Maybe for those male listeners that are listening right now, based on what you know from your husband's
Oh,
experience.
God. I was 21 when I met him. So I was already married for 4 years when I was 25. So I'm going to go back to like 20-year-old me who was not even like trying to meet my husband, honestly. I honestly didn't think that would happen for a long time. There is a theme, and I've talked to teenage Marissa and college Marissa many times. It's kind of a good journaling experience. I like that recent Instagram. It's probably TikTok, but I don't use TikTok. So it's like that Instagram reel thing where I had coffee with my younger self. Did you see that trend?
Yeah.
That was cool. My sentence that I would say to her is stop giving yourself away so easily. And I did have a theme of, having one night stands because I thought it was empowering. Even in friendship, like so wanting them to see me that I would negate my own needs and feelings just to make sure feel seen. So younger Marissa needed to hear that truth of you need to evaluate who gets access to your life and your body, um, and not give yourself away so easily.
That's good. Thank you for that. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. No, it's going to relate. I know I can relate to it. Oh gosh, we could have a whole podcast on that.
I
Seriously. But before we get into lifestyle, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. This was so fun. I
So
loved it.
so fun. It was so good. And again, I love the opportunity that we knew of each other. We knew each other, but to go deeper in this way is such a gift. And
Yeah.
I love when I get to experience things for the first time with my audience. I think that makes it even more special and organic. So thank you. Seriously.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was a powerful conversation. I can't wait for people to hear it and hear what they have to say.
Yeah. And I also love to, and I tell this to guests a lot, like it is can be really challenging to like tell your story. If your journey and goals are not to be a podcast host or to be on stage or whatever, write a book, it can be really hard to share your story or to share the parts in your heart that maybe you've sorted out through, but like, you're not going to sit down and have a dinner conversation, right? And I just love that these episodes get to enlighten my guests' family and friends and community about their own heart, because most of my guests are not podcast hosts or going to public
Yeah.
speak or write a book. And there's so much power in being able to say, "Hey, listen to this podcast," and they don't have to say anything, and letting their family be enlightened and inspired and educated sometimes about, what they feel or what they've been experiencing. And I've seen some really beautiful things come from that.
So good. I love what you're doing. You're creating an awesome space for people to hear from people they may never hear from.
Yeah.
And we all have such amazing stories to share and voices. So I'm just honored that you would share mine.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited for a lot of people to hear your story and to hear our conversation. I think it's going to bless a lot of people. Um,
Uh,
and so let's get down to some lifestyle questions. Just got two of them. What is your favorite coffee shop or drink spot in the Wilmington area? What's your go-to order?
so it's between two. I go to Casablanca for the coffee, and it's like more of a chill vibe. But if I'm going for ambiance, I'm going to Ibis.
I knew you were
They
going to say that before it even came out of your mouth.
They have some of the same baristas. And shout out to, gosh, and now I can't remember his name, but he has like a mullet and he works at both and he's just super cool. And then, so yeah, like both have amazing coffee, like the best coffee in town. Sorry for anybody else. That's good. That's my personal opinion. But yeah, it's an almond milk latte. Most of the time with like one stevia, or it's like they make their own vanilla syrups there, which I love. I don't like the pre-made ones.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little vanilla syrup half sweet.
Love
So
it.
if I'm being more low sugar, because I do that a lot throughout the year, it's stevia, one stevia, or half sweet almond milk vanilla latte.
I love it. I'm like, do I need to go get a coffee right now? Now I'm like,
I went to Ibis this morning and got with my eye patches on because I have no shame about that.
I
I'm like,
love
I'm gonna
that.
yes later, and I need my eyes to not be bubby. So here I am in my eye patches and no shame.
See, here's the thing, right? I just want to take a second to recognize that you guys, you're getting to see the end result, but she still chose to do a hard thing, which meant going out in public with the eye patches on while drinking her coffee. This wasn't all beauty and it wasn't all grace. It was a little awkward.
Yeah, awkwardness for all of you so that you could benefit from less puffy eyes.
And we are grateful.
I wear them almost every morning to take the kids to school because it's like 30 minutes. Like I could put those on and be done with it. But I was like, I need these on longer and I need to get coffee and I'm not taking them off.
And I bet you had great conversations with people along the way.
Nobody said anything.
You're
That's
like
the day.
annoyed. You're like, gosh, I was so
People
pretty.
don't care.
Ain't that the truth? You guys, nobody is really thinking that much about you. They don't care. You know, they should. They care for the right reasons, but for all the reasons why we're self-conscious and we are not sure, they don't care. You know, they don't care.
Okay. They probably want to ask me, those are cool eye patches.
Where do you get them from? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what is a book that you've read multiple times that you believe someone listening should read?
I mean, first and foremost, the Word of God, because it's alive and active. And it's like I've read parts over and over again. And it's new every time because I'm constantly changing and evolving. Like literally the best leadership book, the best relationship book, the most inspiring book. But if I pick one that is not the Bible, it's like a go-to. I love books. Some of them I just sit next to my bed because I feel like I can absorb the information.
It's like the words come off the pages just into your space and you're like, I am absorbing all of this.
Did by these books. Gosh, and so many different seasons on like marriage and raising kids and family and health. One of like the go-to ones I read multiple times back in my early 20s was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that book, if you've never read it, is like a good classic. It just is. One of my most recent favorites is Good Energy, which is like a hot topic right now in terms of health. She and her brother are like advocates in the health space, part of like the whole MAHA movement, which is cool. They did this really amazing interview with Tucker Carlson and lots of other podcast hosts over the last year. And her name's Callie Means or Casey Means. I always get them mixed up because the boy name sounds like a good to me.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a safe space here. I will put the link in the show notes so people can read it.
Is the name of the book. It's becoming really popular. It gives you some really great insight into like the holistic health space and why we need to be more aware of what's happening in our world, in the world around us. And even a Stanford trained doctor like herself leaves that after being highly ingrained in that methodology for so long, right before she like goes and actually becomes an actual doctor, like in her fellowship, I think. She's like, this is insane. Like, this isn't helping people. And the story of like her awakening to the holistic and functional medicine side is just really amazing. And then she talks to you about gut health and things like that. So that's a really great read.
Love that. I'll read that because I love gut health and a lot of those things that you mentioned. What I don't know why I just like stopped as if we're not recording. Anybody can do this, you guys. I literally was just like, we're not recording. There's nothing to keep you safe. We'll just stare at each other's souls. Where could people find you, learn about what you're doing, participate, potentially even be a client of yours?
On Instagram, Marissa Renee McCrory. I believe we're friends on there. So, you can share that. And then my website is femininebydesign.co. Through there, you can contact me, obviously.
You guys, thank you so much for listening. Subscribe. It's so weird saying that. I'll get used to it. Subscribe if you're listening to YouTube. Follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Share this episode. There is literally like 17 different things from this episode that somebody could listen to and be like, okay, I'm here. I hear you. I see you. Share this episode. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow Marissa. Get to hear her story more and experience what she's doing. You guys, so grateful and can't wait to see you again soon. As always, do good things, make me proud, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.